right, guys. Make sure you share this feed everywhere you can on your social media. Get it out there. People need to know. People need to be aware of how close we really are. And how close are we? We're a hair's thread away. It's about to go down. What's going on, guys? Robert here once again on another broadcast chronicling the deep state saga. I don't know, the intrigue, the chaos that they're facilitating on this is all part of an end time plan anyway. You know, I even think that those who are, you know, when it says the devil knows his time is short, he is filled with wrath, and woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down. The reason why the chaos is ensuing is because he doesn't have any other option. He knows that he's between a rock and a hard place. He doesn't really have a future. There's no real future left. And so he's just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at humanity and at God, because that's it. That is it. His time is short. And just like a person that would have 3 strikes on their record being pursued by the police really doesn't have a whole lot to worry about. At that point, they know they're going to be in jail for the rest of their lives, right? They're going to just do whatever they're going to do to try to get away. You know, there's no deals going to be made. There's no redemption. There's no possibility of, unless, of course, Trump is in office, then maybe he would commute and, spring you from prison if you were a bad guy. Now, I know there's some out there that are like, what? What did he just say? No. Okay, so I just think, like I said, my whole perspective on everything is it's yin and yang. Everything is controlled opposition. It's all a part of a plan, an overarching, high-level intelligence operation. It's not just, governments just having smart people. It really does have something to do with an intelligence that is beyond humanity. And I do think that it has everything to do with end-time biblical prophecy and the scenarios that are unfolding in our world, with America being right at the helm of it all. We are really we are the leaders of this escalation of conflict and tensions, and ultimately, which I believe is going to lead to World War III, that's all going to be laid at the door, at the feet of our leadership. Because, when they say the buck stops here, have you ever heard that saying? Leaders always say that, right? Well, if you're the leader of the free world, then the buck stops at America, right? I mean, everybody's going to blame America if something goes terribly wrong, right? And are we going to become the pariah? Are we going to become the bad guy because of what ultimately affects the whole planet? Which really, everything seems to be spiraling out of control even now. So Trump has given an ultimatum of 12 days to Russia, and basically has already said that he's not going to do it. He's not going to listen. And that we're going to have to take extreme measures. And this is why Europe is preparing and digging in and preparing for all-out war. I mean, they are literally preparing for war. They're digging trenches. I mean, you got European countries now arming to the hilt, preparing their front lines because they know it's about to go down. And Russia does too. This is why Russia's now speaking very harshly toward Trump. Never before has the leadership of Russia spoken harshly in response to Trump's statements, because Trump is now becoming very hardline. You know, we're hemming you in. If you don't listen, this is your last. We're doing the same thing we did to Iran, and that's why Putin said we're not Iran, and we're not what did he say? We're not Iran, and he said we're not. I think he was saying Palestinians. I can't remember the exact quote, but I think it was the Medvedev, the former president, had said this in a statement in response to Trump. So we can't talk to Russia like we do to Iran or to some other country that we're going to tell what to do because we got big nukes, and we can also regime change you, we can sanction you into non-existence. Is that what we're going to do to Russia? Because the Europeans have no real supply of energy right now. The energy that they were buying very cheaply from Russia, and that Nord Stream pipeline would have given them extremely cheap energy, is no longer there. And they're happy to be paying the U.S. 3 or 4 times more than what they would have been paying for energy and for LG and for whatever other thing, supply that we were giving them, oil. But the reason why they're okay with it is because they're expecting that Russia's no longer going to be the power that it is, and that it's going to be completely different here real soon. And so they're betting on the bank. They're betting everything that this is all going to turn in their favor after all the hostilities are said and done. But I just don't see it going that direction. I mean, I just can't fathom what they possibly are planning, in the way that this is escalating. This is a huge escalation, a very big escalation. Now, Israel was just in about the last hour and a half. It looks like Tel Aviv was completely blanketed with all kinds of alerts going up into, I'm not exactly sure what actually just happened there, but it just happened a few minutes ago. I would say about an hour ago. We're going to look at some of that news here in a minute. But my sense is, and I'm going to give a little prediction, and I'm not saying that this is for those that are Christians out there, I'm not saying thus saith the Lord. I'm not saying this is God telling me this. I'm just telling you what my sense is. I'm going to tell you what my gut feeling might be connected to some of those intuitions that I've had in the past. I'll just tell you what I think possibly could happen, because we're getting closer to that 12-day deadline. I think we're now, 10 days away? 10 days away from what? With Russia? I mean, literally Trump threatening Russia. And then everything's they're prepping for war all over Europe. I mean, guys. But my prediction, this is my okay, so I told you guys about my gate. I was going to just share this with just a few, but I figure I'd just bring it out here, put it out there for everybody. For those who know about the gate prophecy, I'm getting closer to doing that. There's some things that are just developing here, but and I'm not exactly sure exactly what day I'm going to be doing this, but maybe it'll be like in 10 days. No, I don't know. I hope not. But listen, so what I was going to tell you was the prediction is that if this is true to form of in line with Dmitry Dudman's prophecies, and if you don't know who Dmitry Dudman is, and you've never heard me talk about him or read his book Through the Fire Without Burning, you may not have any context and not know exactly who he was or what he did, and whether or not he was reliable or not. Even if because there's so many people out there that say they heard from God. Everybody on YouTube says they're hearing from God now. But this man lived a life and had great persecution on top of everything that he said that came to pass. In fact, he even predicted the downfall of Ceausescu and his wife, and even said that they would be executed publicly, and they did, and they were before it happened. He was exiled to the United States, went through horrendous persecution, had some very spiritual experiences, and also while he was in America gave some predictions of what would happen in America's future. Now, one of the predictions he gave was that during a time of during a time when America would be in a very big upheaval internally, there would be these secret preparations that were being made by Russia and China and in another country or two that would sneak attack America. And the reason why they would sneak attack, in my mind, looking at what's going on now, is because they think we're unhinged and we've got a leader that is literally unpredictable and someone that actually threatens their world, whether it's the BRICS, their whole economic system, their ability to trade, throwing the whole world into chaos if there is a World War III. And I mean, you got someone that's saying crazy. You want crazy? This is the way I see Trump. You want crazy? I'll show you crazy. I'll show you crazy. I'm willing to blow up the whole world. You want some of this? You want some of this? This is what I see Trump doing to Putin. You want some of this? Come on. You want to see? You want to see what I can do? Yeah, I'll tell you what I can do. Who knows if Trump's on the brink of knowing that something's going to come out on him? Maybe there's some big revelation that could compromise and that's threatening who he is personally. Maybe it's the Israelis for all we know. There's a big outing that just happened today with the Israelis finding out, Trump was just with Stromer of Germany. And all of a sudden, Stromer comes out and says that they're going to vote for a two-state Palestinian, two-state solution for Palestine. Oh, well, that doesn't seem like it's going along with what they were thinking that Trump was going to help them to accomplish, which would be the greater Israel, right? So is this another layer of betrayal? As I told you, there would be layers, there would be makeup session, betrayal, makeup session. It's kind of like that scenario where you got the wife that's always beaten. She keeps coming back. Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. I'll never do it again. Beats her again. Oh, I'm so sorry. And she just keeps coming back. It's like, don't they ever learn? Don't they ever figure it out? I guess not. And this is what's going on with MAGA, too. So you're just going to have this deeper level. But all the while, there's a possibility that maybe there's something out there that the intelligence communities out there are trying to hold over America's head so that we would do what they want us to do. And maybe if Trump decides I'm not going to do it, I'd rather just throw the whole world into World War III because he just does not have, his ego is just way too big to go along and admit defeat, especially to the Israelis. Maybe he secretly just hates the Israelis. Who knows? Who knows? Because I know he doesn't like Netanyahu. He's already said some pretty bad things about Netanyahu. If you haven't heard some of the statements he said about Netanyahu. Now, if Netanyahu has him over if he is truly compromised, well, then how does he get out of that compromise? Well, just cause as much chaos as possible in the world and bring about a whole coalition of nations to converge on Israel, sacrifice them. Why not? If this is going to get you out of the bind, especially if there's all kinds of chaos going on in the world, like World War III kind of chaos. Nobody's going to care about little stuff anymore. You're not going to care about the Epstein files when you're on the brink of seeing nuclear bombs go off, are you? Are you going to care? Is there going to be any reason to even worry? Okay, so here's my prediction. Before I get into the prediction, what's going on? Is everybody doing good? Hey, I just want to take a moment to plug what we're doing here and make sure that you all support what we're all about here at this channel. If you like the message, you want the message to continue on, get behind it, support it. There are some great supporters that are already here that are very regular monthly donors, and I know a lot of people don't have a lot of cash today, and I understand. Even if it's a few cups of coffee a month, that would be very helpful. If we get a lot of people behind us, and we can keep doing this without any kind of worries about meeting our expenses on this end. We have a lot of expenses. We got some people that are maybe one or two people that are a little, well, I just say probably very small number of people that are a little bit larger donor that kind of stand behind us. But, I can't feel like I can put all the weight on their shoulders. So I want, and I'm really, kind of appealing to some more of you out there that do have a little bit more freedom to get behind what we're doing so we can keep doing this. Now, I could I mean, geez, I could just shut this off and just go to work and do a bunch of other things to make some ends meet. But I really feel I'm supposed to be involved with this. Oh, hold on 1 second. Somebody's here. Okay, hold on. I'm going to have to go for a second. There's somebody here. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. Somebody's at my door here. All right, guys, this was unexpected. Just hold tight. Hopefully, I can be right back here. Just stay tuned. Stay tuned. I got somebody that just came up here. I'm going to have to talk to them. Okay, guys, hold on 1 second. I'm done. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right, we're back. All right, I had to go. We had the gas guy pull up, so I had to go talk to the gas guy. He wasn't scheduled or anything, so he was just pulling in. So I had to talk to him. The men in black, they were coming for me. They were like, you're not supposed to be talking about that stuff. No, 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 no. You make sure that you don't go there. You don't tell them about what's about to happen. That's not according to the rules. We can unalive you if you do that. Anyways, okay. Yes, it just happens while I'm live. But okay, so there was something else. Okay, so what was I talking about? Can somebody refresh my mind where I was at? Oh, I was trying to raise a little bit of awareness and support. Okay, and so that's kind of what we're doing. We're just needing a few more of you out there to kind of get behind what we're doing. Whether you're and there's a lot of you out there that are on like Patreon or a member here on YouTube, but just those links are probably direct. If you go down below the video, hit those links and do what you can, and we will appreciate it. And God, I pray, will bless everything that you're doing as well. I just think we got to give the most that we can for each other. I try to do the same, laying a lot on the line here to kind of get things out and sacrificing in many different ways. And I'm not saying, it's difficult. Life is just difficult. And I know there's a lot of people out. That's why we have the ministry. We try to minister to people's needs. We try to give them hope and really find the connection to the source of all things. And that's really what our ministry channel is all about. This channel here, obviously, we talk about news and we get the news out so that people can, with a little biblical perspective, right? We want to look at the prophecies and try to see if we're getting closer to some of those things actually happening and whether it's a reality or not. Because there's a lot of people out there that don't know if it's legit, when they talk about the Bible. But the Bible is pretty dang accurate. I'm going to just say I can't believe how accurate things are. And especially with what is happening today in today's world. So we're really looking at this. Now, getting back to what Dimitri Dudman said. And, we have, I believe, prophecy. The Bible does talk about gifts of the Spirit. And for those who are not aware of what the Bible teaches about these things, I'm not going to say it's anywhere close to psychic predictions or prognosticators or those who are reading tea leaves or whatever, however they predict the future. This is not what we're talking about when we talk about Bible prophecy. When God speaks, it is beyond anything that his creation can fathom, whether it's AI or whether it's demonic power. Those are all a part of the fallen creation, right? When you have demonic influences I'm not just going to say demonic, but fallen angels that masquerade as angels of light, they can have great influence on humanity and their thinking, their consciousness. So we have to understand that those influences are very real, and they may seem accurate to a certain degree, but the greatest influence that we can have that is perfect and 100% accurate is God's view of the future, because he already is in the future. There is no past, present, or future outside of time and space with God. He's an eternal now, right? That's why prophecy is so accurate, because he already knows how everything's going to finish out. He knows how it's going to culminate. He knows the end of the story, right? That's how come God is so accurate. So when we talk about God and prophecy, this is something that's outside of the realm of psychic predictions or, occult views of things that are happening, though those might be very influential on people's thinking. We're going to go beyond that, and we're going to talk about how that influences our modern day. Are there gifts of the Spirit that the Bible speaks about in the church today that actually influences people's ability to see the future? How do they see the future? Well, that's where you have what the Bible calls the influence of the Spirit of God or the mind of Christ. If you have a relationship with God and God does, happens to, and he, how can I say the word? I'm thinking of the right word. He chooses to reveal his secret to you. Now, there's scripture that does say, the Lord himself says, I will do nothing except that I first reveal my secrets unto my servants. And then it says the prophets, right? This is an Old Testament scripture. But there are prophecies, and there is a delineation of gifts of office, gifts that are in the church, like apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, evangelists. These are overseeing or leadership type giftings, and they have a more mature gifting. Even if you're an entry-level Christian, you have the Spirit of God within you, and you can hear from God. God can give you information. God can, do a miracle for you. He can reveal things to you, but it's on a level that's more immature, where you might be not really perceiving the big picture if you're a more mature person in the faith, right? Where you might be considered to be an elder or someone that's got some maturity with God, right? Or long-standing relationship that understands his way. Now, I'm not saying we are ever going to understand the full ways of God, but at least you've got some ability to kind of gauge what is true and what is truly from God. Okay, so that's why I'm putting the context there, because Dudman, I believe, was a man that heard from God. And I do believe there are people in the world that do hear from God. I don't think it's as prolific and as pervasive as many people would say, especially on YouTube, that everybody's hearing from God. I would say be very careful and make sure you discern and know the scriptures and know the voice of the Lord for your own personal life. Don't just go following whatever voice is telling you it's God. But Dudman had predicted that in a time in the future, and this was back in the 80s, and why did God give Dudman this prophecy? It wasn't prophecy, it was a vision. He got visions. He had these visions of what was to come. And he got these visions back in the late 80s, all the way into the early 90s, I believe. And as I told you guys in the past, I did meet him twice before he died, and his wife. I met his wife. I met his daughter. His daughter died too. I still talked with Michael Bodia, his grandson, even up until not too long ago. We would interview him. And he kind of made the rounds in the Christian world about these predictions, but it wasn't so much the predictions as much as it was his testimony of suffering, of persecution, of the intrigue of smuggling Bibles into Russia through Romania, ultimately his prophecy and prediction of the death of Ceausescu and his wife, which ultimately began the culmination, which ultimately kicked off the Iron Curtain falling, right? The first country to fall was Romania. And he kind of was right there in prediction of what was to come, and that's the beginning of when everything began to fall. Right after he was exiled, they tried to kill him, right? They if you read the book, the captain of the prison had the order to execute him, and as he was given the order, he dropped dead with the execution papers in his hand. And they stayed his execution at that point because everybody was afraid of him. They didn't want to kill him because they knew he wasn't an evil person or anything that deserved death. In fact, they knew he was a righteous man and that he loved God and that he was, only doing what God called him to do. And so eventually they exiled him. And then when he got to America, the Lord started telling him that there was terrible things coming for America's future. And he started detailing these events. And one of those was that there would be a nuclear holocaust that would happen in certain states. He defined the states too. He showed off which states they would be. And those states, he said that the Russians and the Chinese, and also there was another country, I think a South American country. He did name Nicaragua too. For some reason, Nicaragua at that time, I think it was Nicaragua, now has a Russian base. Before it didn't have that. It has a Russian base there. But the Chinese are obviously very steeped and involved in South America. Even Mexico has a lot of influence of Iranians and Russians. I think Mexico actually makes Russian tanks, if I'm not mistaken. But this influence of communism and this escalation of and tide of events politically would culminate right before this attack, which would be through submarine missiles that would come from both coasts. He said before that happens, he said there would be internal strife and unrest in America. Now, my prediction, if this is legitimately where we're at, and I'm not saying I know for sure. I'm just saying if this is where we're at, because it kind of looks like we're getting like pieces are kind of fitting right now. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the next 10 days. And I said, this is what will happen in the next 10 days if this is where we're at. There's going to be a lot of unrest going on in the next 10 days. So something's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be protests or some internal upheaval. Something's going to happen that's going to cause the government to be starting to look internally like there's something going on. Because that's what he said would happen. He said the government would then begin to focus internally because of domestic issues, and it was at that time that we would be sneak attacked. Okay? So if this is legitimately what is happening, I'm just putting it out there. There may be some unrest or some kind of events that begin to really take the attention of our government to be looking inward. They're not going to be looking outward anymore, because right now we're all about, Iran and Israel and Russia and Europe, and our president's traveling all over. This is all external foreign policy. But what's going to happen, according to Dimitri Dudman, before this event takes place, and this is kind of what I think could be where we're at, is that our government would start looking internally. So we just have seen a few different little events pop off, but in the next 10 days with this ultimatum that's been given to Putin, if this is the escalation that leads to nuclear conflict, then I would expect some very big domestic issues to begin to unfold. All right? That's all I'm going to say on that. Hopefully that makes all sense to you. How's it going, Pablo? We can look at some news here too as well. By the way, we are going to be doing. Well, I'll tell you guys that later. I'll tell you that about later. I should just wait on that. Oh, let's see. Let's go ahead and look at some news here. This is an interesting post that I just got here. This was posted to our Telegram page today. This is the Brits talking about, while they have the background of Trump in the background coming off the Air Force One or Air Force Two, I don't know what they call the plane or the helicopter. Excuse me. They're talking on this broadcast. If you go over here and check out the video, it's talking about how the UK has this new law that has been enacted. It's called the Online Safety Act, supposedly for children. It's the puppy dogs, the children, all those little things that are cute. This is what this law is for, to protect, right? But really, it's a dystopian mechanism for censorship on a scale we've never seen. And they are trying to repeal this law right now, as of yesterday. I put the links there. But it says they're using this law to censor anything they do not like in real time. It's not just for children, okay? It's for everybody, all right? And they can tell social media, it doesn't matter who, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, any of them, that this is a threat to children and it's dangerous or whatever. And it has to be immediately taken down, or there will be huge $1 million fines. 10%, they say, of what their annual revenue is that they pull in. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars they could sue, right? So they're trying to really bring compliance to the social media because they know things are out of control with the ability of people to get information out. And if they feel it's a threat, and they're using the children as a cover for their censorship mechanism, right? So it says here that huge Barry Gardiner admits and this is the guy that they're talking to about this. I don't know if he's some kind of MP or something. He sounds really like creepy too. His voice sounds creepy. He sounds like one of those, I don't know. I'll just let you figure out what you think, but he just sounds creepy when they're asking him this. He says that the Online Safety Act is not just about children. It's also to censor and monitor adults. So they did admit, they did get him to admit, because the interviewer was putting him to the task. She was putting the screws down. She was asking him a bunch of questions, and he just spit it out. Yes, it is for other people besides children. So we go over here to Wikipedia on the Online Safety Act, and this was put through as a bill in 2023. And it says that it was an act of the Parliament of the UK to regulate online content. It passed on the 26th of October and gives the relevant Secretary of State the power to designate and suppress or record a wide range of online content that is, quote, illegal or, unquote, quote unquote, deemed harmful to children. So whether it's harmful to children or illegal, the act creates a new duty of care for online platforms. They call it a duty of care. And the duty of care is basically a legal obligation that is imposed on an individual, requiring adherence to a standard of reasonable care to avoid careless acts that could foreseeably harm others, right? So if you hurt my feelings, that's harming me. I'm going to have to make a complaint, and maybe I'll sue you if you don't take it down, because you're harming my mind or my emotions, right? So anything could be. It creates a new duty of care for online platforms, requiring them to take action against illegal content or legal content that could be harmful. See, you can also take legal content out as well. You can also take legal content out that could be harmful to children, where children are likely to access it. So children can access anything. If they have your computer, they are potentially able to access anything that any adult can access, right? Especially if they're not being overseen. So yeah, my children saw it. Okay, so we're going to sue. We tried, so there's just going to be these legal things that are going to go on to try to censor everything. It says platforms that are failing to do this, or that are failing this duty, would be liable to fines up to 18 million pounds or 10% of their annual turnover, whichever is higher. Think about that. There's a big incentive to try to sue these companies now. We could get rich. We could be independently secure for the rest of our lives. All we have to do is find out how it harmed, Johnny or our children's. This was just terrible. I mean, we just have to sue them into oblivion. So it's really a censorship, a big censorship act. So there you go on that one. And that's something that I think is actually going to be rolled out for all the countries when they really want to clamp down on the internet stuff. They really are trying to stop the flow of information. This right here was an interesting article. This was a discussion with Senator Ron Johnson, Paulie Tomey, and Dr. Brian Hooker, and they exposed how pediatricians are financially incentivized to push vaccines. Can you imagine if you went into your doctor's office and the doctor, all he cared about was trying to get you to get that vaccine because, he was going to make $500 off you for getting you to take it, right? That's why they were trying to give people money. They were even asking people, hey, you want $1,000? Toward the end of COVID, they were saying, you want $1,000? All you got to do is take the vaccine. Well, now they're taking that money and they're giving it to the doctors. And we knew that this was what they were doing even during COVID to the hospitals. They were incentivizing them to use the ventilators. Even if you didn't need a ventilator, if they put you on a ventilator, the hospital got $100,000. I mean, it was some extreme amount. And if you died, well, they got another $200,000 or $300,000 if you happen to die from COVID. You know, so there was this incentive to allow people to pass away. Maybe they were just too old and they didn't want to have to try to, you know, who knows? They give them the protocol. There was money for that. Give them the protocol, which they say the protocol was actually killing people. But the reason why so many people died, they say, a lot of doctors will tell you this, that it was more of the protocol that was killing people. It wasn't so much COVID. And so now they're doing the same thing with these vaccines. They're giving money out. Let's just say that a doctor sees, 10 or 15 kids a day. They just kind of roll them through, because that's where their real money is being made, is just by getting people to get vaccinated. You're looking at 20 people. Let's just say 10 kids a day. 10 times 600. What is that? That's how much they make just off of getting someone to get vaccinated. And then you multiply that out in 1 month. Let's just say he got 10 people a month. Let's just say he got 50 people. Well, what did I say? Let's just say, if they said 10 a day, let's just say 5 days a week. You got 20 days out of the month, right? Is that about right? 20 days a month. So you got 10 times 5. What is that? 10 times 5? Okay, let's just say 5 a day. Let's just say you got 5 people a day to take the vaccine, 5 kids. So you got 5 times 20, you got 100 people. So 100 times 600, what is that? $60,000 a month? Is that what that comes out to? Am I right on that? $60,000 a month? 60 times 100 kids. So he got 100 kids to take that vaccine. He made $60,000 in a month just on recommending and getting someone to take a vaccine. So that's really ugly. The HMOs pay doctors $200 to $600 per fully vaccinated child, with top earners making $1 million annually in bonuses, just on bonuses. Tell me that's not an incentive to overlook what you might think could be harmful and untested ingredients, which many people still don't know what's in it because it's still experimental and it's still an emergency use, under emergency use authorization. How can this continue to go on? Like, seriously, how can? And now they're rolling, and under Trump, they're rolling out more mRNAs. It's not just under the cover of some crisis like COVID. Now it's just, hey, you want to get healed of your cancer? You want to, you want to get rid of your acne? Well, our AI system will develop a customized mRNA just for you in just 48 hours. It's untested, but hey, there you go. And they're making huge amounts off of those. Huge amount of money off of that too. But hey, just have a big fear-based, collective psychosis and under the guise of some pandemic that's going to kill everybody off. Well, as Trump says, well, I saved billions of people. I'm the father of the vaccine. I saved he's to this very day still continues to say he saved billions of people. It's all because of Trump that the world was saved, even though millions and millions and millions of people died. Millions. Yeah. So here is Stromer talking about how he's officially announcing that the UK will recognize Palestine as a state by the United Nations meeting in September, unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire. So if Israel doesn't cease fire, then they're going to recognize Palestine as a state in the United Nations. This was right after he met with Trump. This is a message to Israel. Stromer saying this is basically Trump saying this because they just got done meeting. And Israel doesn't know. This is why all of a sudden I take it all of a sudden now Israel's back in the news with another barrage of missiles, right? Where did that come from? Nothing had been going on for weeks. No missiles at all, hardly. I mean, just one maybe a drone or something to coming through. But now, boom, here comes something big all of a sudden, right on the heels of this. Tell me there's not something that is going on there. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I just wanted to kind of put some stuff out there just to get you guys to see what was going on there with all this. That big shooting, I guess that was terrible. That happened yesterday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said this: Stromer rewards the monstrous terror of Hamas and punishes its victims. This is what Netanyahu said about Stromer's statement from the UK or from Germany. And see, Netanyahu is saying this. This is like a proxy. This is a proxy war between Trump and Netanyahu. He's basically saying this about Trump because he knows that Trump put this in Stromer's mouth, right? So here's what Netanyahu is saying to Trump. I'm just going to change Stromer to Trump. Trump rewards the monstrous terror of Hamas and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow, or the United States. Reconciliation towards jihadist terrorists always fails. It will disappoint you too. It will not happen. So it's basically a veiled threat by saying, hey, if you don't allow us to take them out, well, then they're going to harm you. You're going to have some terrible event happen. It's going to be some jihadist terrorist bringing some kind of 9/11 onto your soil. Do you really want that? Do you really want that? Well, that's what's going to happen if you keep doing this, Trump. Right? Okay, so just saying. What is this? Netanyahu revealed that the U.S. has officially permitted Israel to seize parts of Gaza. You see how Netanyahu has to say officially that Trump is allowing him to do this? Israel has never had more loyal friends than Trump. Oh yeah, they're definitely trying to butter everything up here. This is coming from another Israeli channel on Telegram, which I won't say. It's a large channel, by the way. It's kind of a mouthpiece for the military stuff. The IDF believes its post-ceasefire gains could lead to Hezbollah's full disarmament. Since November, Israel has carried out over 500 airstrikes in Lebanon, killing at least 230 operatives and destroying 90-plus rocket launchers, 20 command centers, 40 weapon depots, and 5 arms factories. The IDF also maintains a presence at 5 key posts in Lebanon and conducts nearly daily strikes on Hezbollah targets, alongside hundreds of ground operations in southern Lebanon. Growing pressure within Lebanon is now calling for the group to disarm. Lots still going on there. So they're trying to say now that the Gazans that are still there are being starved, that they're stopping any kind of international food, humanitarian aid from getting in. And Israel is trying to say, no, we're helping them. We're helping them. Don't worry. We're dropping food. Everything's fine. So listen to what Trump says while he's sitting there with Stromer today. Let's look at some of this stuff. This is Stromer. This is Trump hanging out with Stromer, right? He said, if I weren't around, you would have now 6 major wars going on. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have peace until there isn't any peace. If it wasn't for me, you would have 6 wars until there isn't any peace, and we do have a major nuclear war or whatever. That's why he's so desperate to get that Nobel Peace Prize right now, because I think he needs it before there's major wars that break out. I don't know. I think that his policies are actually, instead of relieving pressure, they're building pressure. And so just because you don't see a bunch of, spouts coming out, water flying out everywhere in every direction, it's because they got the nozzle tied down, and all it's doing is building up pressure. So you got a big bubble just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So Trump may have stopped, and I don't think he has. I think it's just continuing to escalate these wars in Middle East. And, maybe the war didn't turn out bad. I guess the wars haven't turned out negatively in our favor yet. And maybe that's what he's saying, because obviously Trump has bombed. We do have major wars going on. We've got the UK. I mean, the UK. We've got Ukraine, and we've got the Middle East everywhere. I mean, Iran, Yemen, Syria, Gaza. I mean, that hasn't stopped. Where's the peace? There's no peace. It's only going to escalate. At this point, we've got an ultimatum. And you got Cambodia now and Thailand going at it. Okay, so in 48 hours, Jerusalem is expected to make a critical decision. If Hamas refuses to release the hostages, Israel may move to formally annex parts of Gaza. See, this is in contradiction to what Trump just got Stromer to say, right? Isn't this in contradiction? Now Trump's going to be very angry at this, I'm sure. Now, they can't outwardly be angry because there's a lot of politics involved, but there is a chess game being played right now between Israel and Trump. And you can see it right here. So they're going to, if the hostages are not released, this is coming from Israel, that they're going to go in and annex parts of Gaza. Unlike military withdrawals, which can be executed at any time, annexation is near permanent. It's a near permanent step. Under Israeli law, reversing annexation isn't that simple. It requires either a supermajority of 80 Knesset members or a national referendum. In other words, once Gaza is annexed, the land doesn't come back without a political war. A political war. Very interesting wording indeed. What do you think about that? Netanyahu says, only the Messiah can replace Netanyahu, says Prime Minister's brother-in-law. This is the brother-in-law of Netanyahu. Only the Messiah can replace Netanyahu. So who would that possibly be? Well, if you go back to history and biblical prophecy, Jesus said, I come in my Father's name, and you don't receive me. But one will come in his own name, which many say is the Antichrist, that Jesus was inferring that in the future, Israel would receive someone coming in their own name, which would be the name of humanity as representing humanity. Well, I represent you. They're really, they're going to take on that. The spirit of the Antichrist is going to take on the identity of humanity. He's going to be in the stead of a savior of humanity. And so who might that person be? Whoever does take out Netanyahu is got to be the Messiah, right? Well, I guess we're going to find out how this this unfolds here. Only the Messiah can replace Netanyahu. Say what? Talk about a biblical headline. Dr. Hagi Ben Artzi, prominent Bible scholar and brother-in-law of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, issued an urgent and theologically charged appeal in a new interview, asserting that only the Messiah, son of David, is fit to succeed Netanyahu, and is warning that a political campaign to force his ouster from power is masking itself behind humanitarian slogans. He calls this a historic opportunity and a hostage distraction. This is a political campaign to topple Bibi. The entire hostage campaign is a political campaign aimed at toppling Bibi and the government, he said, using the prime minister's nickname. That's his nickname, Bibi. They know that if Netanyahu gives in to a deal, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and Police Minister Ben-Gvir will resign and will go to elections to remove Netanyahu with a new leader. Only the Messiah can replace Netanyahu, he said. Asked whether he sees any right-wing figure capable of succeeding Netanyahu, Ben Artzi was unequivocal. Absolutely not. The only one who can replace Benjamin Netanyahu is the King Messiah. We're getting very biblical very quickly, you all. Wow, we're getting so close, period. This was an article on IsraeliToday.co.il, which is an Israeli media outlet, very, very, very popular. UN conference adopts an integrated, actionable framework for two-state solution. So they're supposedly going to vote on this here real soon again for a two-state solution. But you see how Israel's now maneuvering to try to annex Gaza? You see that? And they're using the hostages and the whole sympathy of the hostage situation to bring about that, well, this is what has to happen since we just really never got through to Hamas. They never gave up our hostages. We're just going to take over everything now. Yeah. So that's what they're going to do. Well, there you go. Hopefully that gives you a little insight into what's going on. I'm just going to look at some of your guys' comments here before I go. Let's see. Anybody have any questions or any comments or thoughts that you want me to chat about? Go ahead and let me know if you have any comments or thoughts. Let's see here really quickly. And I didn't really let everybody know when I first made the appeal, but if you want to become a member of our channel or you want to help out on the pledge drive, those links are right there in the description below or right there in the comment section. You can see it right there in the comment section. I pinned it up there. So, or, you know, becoming a member of the channel is always a good way to do it too. But, yeah, I think I made everyone disappear by saying abracadabra. I know, Albert. What the heck? That was pretty, that video that Lady Gaga posted about those little toddlers. Well, there was one toddler. The rest were probably 5, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. The toddler was probably only 2 or 3 at the most, dancing around like Lady Gaga, saying all kinds of demonically charged, you know, spells. I mean, literally, that song is a song of spells, and very evil. And she just was gushing over that little baby, doing her bidding, just endearing magic to the public at large. Oh, this is so beautiful. Look at this little baby, how cute. Oh, just singing the praises of Satan. Oh, I just love it. I just love it. Did you guys see that? Well, we posted it on our Telegram page. If you haven't seen it, go look it up. Terrible. Terrible, terrible. The song is called Abracadabra. You probably can find it on YouTube. I can't really play it right now because it's probably copyrighted. You saw that, Freedom? Freedom Deep? Okay, so I think I lost my studio here. Where did my studio go? What's going on? Am I still on? Did I just get disconnected or what? It's saying, let me see here. Where did I go? Okay, it does say that I'm still on here, but something's fishy here. Okay, there we go. What in the world? All right. That's weird. Okay, I'm still here. Lady Gaga tried to make me disappear here. All right, so Scott Peter says he's in St. Paul, Minnesota, and they've called out the guard and started emergencies because of a major cyber attack. Really, Scott? That happened today? What's going on? Now, that could also be, Scott, another scenario that we could see where there's an internal shutting down of critical infrastructure. Now, we did try to prepare people for critical infrastructure outages because I have foreseen that is a very vulnerable part of our infrastructure is hacking our critical infrastructure that would cause people to become more compliant, right? And or more easily controlled. Under a time of an emergency, this would be something that I would expect. So that's why I've told people, you definitely want to have, some kind of a generator or, extra food, sources of, fresh water where you can access in case your power goes out. If the city goes out, then you're not going to have water pressure, so your water pressure could go out. And just look at what's going on in California with that whole Palisades fire where they didn't have no water. And you know what? That thing is still not filled up. The people are making videos about this right now, that if there was another fire, there was no way they could put it out because there's no water still in that big reservoir. Isn't that crazy? So, I mean, there's always things that you should be thinking about. This Scott says it was just a few hours ago. It's still in effect. Local state of emergency. This is in Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota. A new shooting in Indianapolis involving a cop. Yeah. I kind of got that sense when I saw that guy on that plane yelling Allah Akbar, it was a signal. That to me was, I believe, a signal to initiate some problems. We'll see if that's true. And like I said, the other prediction about in the next 10 days, some unrest, there's a possibility that could be connected to some kind of major cyber attack too. Can you imagine if critical infrastructure got shut off in major portions of America? I mean, you're talking about, like, let's just say hacking our phone system or our electrical grid, causing a major, domino effect or something terrible like that. You know how much unrest there would be where people can't get resources, or let's just say, I'll just give the example of when I was in California one time. There was a power outage that happened. It lasted almost 24 hours. It probably was actually a little longer than 24 hours, but it affected like three different states. It was like Nevada, Arizona, California. And I remember it was really during the hot part of the summer. And I lived in the San Joaquin Valley. It's like a desert. So it gets up to 110. Sometimes it gets up to 120. You'll have over 100 degree weather every day of the week for a month straight. That's how hot it gets there. And I remember sitting there in the swimming pool. Everybody was in the swimming pool. Nobody had electricity. And it went on and on and on. And then at night, the whole city looked dark. You couldn't even see. Every once in a while, you see a few lights from, someone that had a generator or something. But all you see is car lights. People driving their cars around. They don't know what else to do. They're just going to drive around. So you just see car lights driving everywhere. No lights. And I started thinking, whoa, this is getting serious. Like what happens if this goes on any longer? I could feel the tension and the sense of looming chaos where people would start panicking. All the food in the markets spoiled. They had to get rid of all the frozen food. Anything that was frozen or anything that was refrigerated had to be thrown away because it went bad. And can you imagine something like that happening on a large scale? Just think about it. I mean, if you're in the only reason something like that would really happen is if you were in a state of war or something was bad was about to happen. I would think that you could be expecting that kind of scenario. Only Yahweh saves. I'm in the middle of Tennessee, and you were watching Magnolia Channel when then it was interrupted for an EBS, which is an emergency broadcasting system alert, specifically for Los Angeles. Weird. You never seen that before? Okay, so when did you see that, Yahweh saves? Was that today? Only Yahweh saves. Was that today? Tell me. Howard, I know you got the solar, they want to block the sun. But you know what? Even if the sun there's still UV rays coming through, even if they got like chemtrails, it'll still create energy. So you still can get, it's not as powerful, but you still can get energy if you needed it. You tried to go to the pledge drive and it says what? Are you kidding? It didn't work? Let me see. Oh, what the heck happened? Oh, you know what? It's the link is wrong. Hold on. Thank you for telling me that. Let me see if I can fix it. Hold on a minute. Yeah. Okay, so what happened is I put the wrong link in there. Thank you for telling me that there, Treasure. I appreciate that. Let me fix it really quick. But anyways, that's kind of what we were thinking there. Pledge drive. Okay, so this is hopefully that works. All right, try it. Let me try it. That's always why I should try the links, because every once in a while you copy and paste it and it doesn't work. So there's the pledge drive. If anyone's out there that wants to contribute on the pledge drive, please do. We would appreciate it. And we got something special I think we're going to do for the people that are pledging as well. Anyway, I try to do something special all the time. I mean, like, but it doesn't matter, like I think we're getting so close to what's going to happen anyway. It's not going to really matter at a certain point if we're at where I think we're at. Okay, so like I said, I could be really wrong on all this. My predictions could be wrong, but a lot of these things that I've shared with you guys have actually happened very consistently. We haven't been wrong about too much. So I always give myself, I always say I'm not perfect and I could be wrong. And this would be one that I would be wrong on, that I would say, yep, that's it. But if I'm right, again, on this, that's not good. That's not a good prediction to be right on. I kind of don't want to be right on this, you know? So, this is just a heads up kind of warning, possible prediction that if it does happen, you better be thinking about how are you ready for what's to come. And that means not just in the natural physical world, but having your heart right. Because if it gets that bad, I mean, you better be right with God. That's like a sinking ship out in the middle of the ocean. You better make sure you make peace with God on every level. You know what I mean? You might have a life raft, you might have extra food and all that other stuff, and that's good because you're not dead yet, but you're out there floating out in the middle of nowhere. You better still get your heart right with God. So it doesn't matter. That may not be that much longer until all those preps are over and done with, and now you got something, where you're going to have to actually face the Lord, right? That's what I'm talking about. My preparation on this channel is more so about if you do have the ability to have a little more longevity, if it is a bad, worst case scenario, if it does happen to be the worst case, you got prepper channels out there like Canadian Prepper talking about stuff like this all the time. But what's really on the other side of this type of event? It is prepare to meet the Lord, right? Is your house in order? Have you been weighed in the balance and found wanting? Or are you going to be prepared to hear the voice of the Lord say to you, well done, good and faithful servant? That's what you have to be really prepped up on, making sure that's right? So get into your Bible, spend some time in prayer, spend some time in communion with other believers and on a deeper level, whether it's locally or online. Here at this channel here, we've got a group of people that meets pretty regularly on the BP Ministries channel. So make sure you're connected over there. And we do these pretty regularly where people here on this channel are interacting in the chat room, and I try to interact with all of you. When you click on how much you would like to donate, nothing happens. Really? Nick? Really? Are you serious? There are people that have done it, but that's kind of weird. If you guys are having a problem, my goodness, that's probably why we didn't get too much. Like, maybe it's not working. It says, when you click on how much to donate, well, you got to type in how much you want, right? I typed it in and it worked. I put in $5 million. $5 million, and it worked out just fine. I'm going to have a big overdraft. We're going to send $1 million to BP News. But anyways, so it worked. Let's see. Yeah, it works. What? We got a pledge? Woo, who the heck did that? Let me see. We got a big pledge there, it looks like. Hold on a minute. Well, it's let's see, wait a minute. It says a pledge. I guess there's a difference between something that's pledged and something that actually... Okay, so if you look at it, and I think pledge... Okay, so if you actually look at it, it says raised 337, and then it says pledged 1,161. So the pledge went up by about 500. But I think the pledged is something that people say this is going to be something in the future. I think that's not actually raised, is it? Because I don't see the actual raised amount. But the pledged amount, obviously, I'm not sure how it works, but whoever upped that pledge amount, thank you. I'm not exactly sure. Okay, so it worked. The pledge amount. Oh, let's see. So you're saying RFB have been spot on for years. Yes. Richie from Boston. Yeah, he's been on target. And there was a point when he was talking about COVID. Now, I don't particularly agree with Richie from Boston on his germ theory because I do think that people do catch the flu from other people because he makes it sound like, oh no, it's the germ theory is that everybody at a certain point sheds and that they get sick at a certain time altogether because that's when everybody gets sick, and it's really not has nothing to do with viruses or anyways, that's not a big deal. But I don't agree with him on that. But his assessment of what was going on during COVID was dead on right, and I at first didn't think that he was right. I thought he was off on because I didn't agree with the germ theory thing. I think maybe that might have colored my perception, but he was pretty accurate on a lot of stuff that he said. Yeah, and I kind of like his mindset. I like the way he does stuff with people in his audience, and he interacts with them, and he meets them. He actually goes and meets with people, and he's I kind of like that. The way he kind of travels a lot too. If I was single, I would do the same thing. I don't think he's single, is he? Or is he single? He is single, right? But I do like Richie from Boston. He's been one of the OGs, man, of getting a lot of information out there. So let's see what else. Anything else we should look at here? The two-state solution, man, that's something else. How old is that? That was posted today. Oh, wow, that is today. UN conference, this is aa.com. .tr. This is a UN conference adopts integrated actionable framework, quote, integrated actionable framework for two-state solution, Saudi Arabia. Final document adopted at UN conference lays groundwork for peace, says Saudi foreign minister. Wow. That was just today. Istanbul. A UN conference in New York on a two-state solution between Palestinians and Israel has adopted an integrated and actionable framework, Saudi Arabian Foreign Minister Farrar said on Tuesday. He, however, did not elaborate on the document's content. The two-day UN conference, co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France, brought together senior officials to discuss ways to recognize Palestinian statehood and implement the two-state solution. Out of the 193 UN member states, at least 142 currently recognize the Palestinian state, which was declared by the umbrella Palestinian Liberation Organization in exile in 1988. That was under Yasser Arafat, right? Ahead of the conference, French President Emmanuel Macron said France will formally recognize Palestine in September. It says during the conference's opening session on Monday, Farrar emphasized that achieving security in the Middle East begins with granting Palestinians their legitimate rights. He also called for an end to the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and accountability for those responsible. He reiterated that the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative remains the foundation for a just resolution. The initiative proposes normalized relations between Arab states and Israel in exchange for a complete Israeli withdrawal from territories occupied since 1967 and the establishment of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem being its capital. Wow. Israel and the U.S. have both opposed the conference, with Washington claiming that it could prolong the ongoing war in Gaza. This is where this is where Israel annexes it, right? It says here, last November, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel also faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice for its war on the enclave. So you've got the whole world pretty much against Israel and the U.S. right now. Whether or not U.S. is going along with this, just on paper, or if it's literally a true covenant that we've made with Israel, I think is going to be seen here really soon, because I think Trump pivots quite a bit to, to the greatest public opinion polls. He's going to try to appeal to the greatest influence the world has. And I think that's where we drop Israel, or something happens to the U.S., one or the other. Something major neutralizes our influence in the world. That's what a lot of people say is going to happen prophetically, is that the U.S. is just going to lose its influence over the world. And there's going to be some other power that's going to take our place. So if that happens, then I guess Israel doesn't have any other friends besides, whether or not God is going to watch out completely until the very last moment when they're about to be destroyed. Prophetically, that's what it says. Then they're going to be on their own, just trusting that God's not going to allow them to be completely annihilated. But there will be a lot of chaos and a lot of war up until that moment. And up until the moment when they look to him and they see whom they've pierced, and it says they're going to mourn and repent for him as one mourns for their only son. And then it says they'll be saved. Whatever remnant is left is going to be saved. That's in the Old Testament. They're going to look upon him whom they've pierced, and they're going to mourn for him as one mourns for their only son. That is repentance. That is an acceptance of their rejected Messiah that came 2,000 plus years ago. And that's going to be on the back end of all this unfolding political drama that's going to lead to war all throughout the whole of the Middle East, because the whole world is going to be converging on Israel at that time. But where is America? That's my question. Where is America at that point? Has something happened to us? Or do we flip sides, and are we going to be working with all the coalition of nations that are coming against Israel? What's going to happen? What do you guys think? In the meantime, this is food for thought. Take it before the Lord. Pray and see what the Lord has to say to you on those matters. We got a new member, Marcel. Good job, Marcel. Glad to be that you're a part of our channel, and that we are also a part of you. We are all together in this. Thank you very much. Let me see something here. Yes, good job. Everybody congratulate Marcel for being a part of the family of Blazers here at BP News. We need some canned applause. What do you think? Some canned applause. Let's see. Can we make some applause, please, for Marcel? Thank you, Marcel. All the cheap seats are even in an uproar for Marcel becoming a member of BP News. Good job. All right, guys. I think that's about it for tonight, or for today. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The love. Yes, the love of Jesus is the motivation. That is the true, real motivation of what we do here. And I hope everybody is very clear on that. It has nothing to do with any other competing emotion or motivation. It's truly the love of Jesus and getting everybody ready, because every one of us has to prepare ourselves for that day. And it's getting closer every day. I mean, have you ever heard that saying? And I take this I take this to my own heart because it is true. We're all marching closer to the day of our ultimate physical death. The Bible calls it sleep for the Christian because we're not going to, the sting of death is taken away. But I'm one dying man preaching to other dying men and women, right? We're all marching ever closer to that day when we will be, you've only got a certain amount of time allotted. But ultimately, that death will be swallowed up in life if you're right with Christ. So the sting of death is no longer there if you're a believer. And you will have a resurrection unto eternal life. You're not going to be resurrected, or you're not going to be, cast into that second death. The Bible calls it a second death. That's going to ultimately be the end of who you are. But you're perfecting that relationship now in the time and space that has been allotted to you to get your heart and life ready, for that eternal place that Jesus said he goes to prepare for us, right? You got to be prepared for that place. You won't even enjoy it if you're not prepared. If you're not prepared for that place, there's no way you can inhabit it anyway. You have to have a wedding garment. You have to be without spot and without wrinkle. You have to have been, set apart during this time. This is what this whole life is all about, to get you to get ready. And that's a process, and it's a very difficult process, picking up your cross daily, offering up your life as a living sacrifice. Your whole, it says everything that you are, even your physical body, you got to give it up to God. And that's your spiritual act of worship, it says. And your reasonable service. Why does it say reasonable service? Because it's only logical. When you really think about the big picture of who God is and what he planned and what the real ultimate goal for creation was by God, in God's own heart, it's very clearly defined in Scripture. The only reasonable service is that it's only logical. That's what you do when you really understand the big picture. You give yourself back. That's what redemption is. It's a buying back or repurposing or bringing back to its original intent, right? So he's taking you from the trash heap of humanity, which really is the fallen creation. Everything is in a state of a fall or of a separation, right? And under a curse or under a judgment. Whether you realize that or not, if you're not in Christ, you don't get it. Sometimes people don't get it because until things start falling apart, then that's when everybody starts figuring it out, right? Everything is in a state of second law of thermodynamics, right? Everything is in a constant state of decay. And so when you start seeing that decay, you wake up. And many people wake up when they have terrible tragedies or something happens where, and not everybody, some people wake up just because God told them, hey, you need to get your life right. And they listen and they do it. Or they might go through a crisis and then they're like, well, what is the meaning of life? What is the reason for why is this happening now? Why God? Why? Well, because their life is broken. The world and creation and everything is in a state of decay. And is as Paul said, our inner life is being renewed day by day. Our outward man is decaying, though our inward life is being renewed day by day. So if you're right with Christ, then you're being perfected. Even though outwardly things may be falling apart, your inner life is being renewed. And you're being readied for the day when you will shed this corrupt body and put on an incorrupt body, right? That is going to be eternal. You're going to shed that incorruption or that corruption for incorruption, right? This mortal will put on immortality, right? You're going to be clothed with immortality, but your spirit is in the process of being perfected for that immortal body as well. And that's where you're being renewed day by day. So let's get renewed. This is what this channel is about, is preparing for the renewal of all things. And in the process, if you need a little more time on earth to get that squared away, well, then you better have some preps. You better have some preps there to get you a little farther down the road to get yourself prepared. And make sure you have the right tools spiritually to get that preparation all complete. You know, everybody has a race to run, and you only have a certain amount of time. And once you cross the finish line, that's it. Amen? So hopefully we're all on that right path. And I pray the Lord blesses all of you out there in Jesus' mighty, all-powerful, all-glorious, and his incomprehensible love that he has for all of us name. Jesus' mighty name. Amen. God bless you guys. I'll be talking to you guys real soon, and we'll be updating you with more updates, I'm sure. Maybe today. We'll see what happens. If something big goes down, we'll come back on. In the meantime, God bless. And also, welcome, Marcel, to the family of Blazing Press. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great afternoon.